There are two important constraints to understand about pure functions. First, pure functions must have identical returns for identical arguments. Second, pure functions can have no side effects. Let's look at a couple examples that violate these criteria and then correct them to make them pure. First, we're going to create a greeter. We are going to say that our greeting is equal to hello, and our greet function will take a person's name and will simply return greeting plus space plus person. Now we can execute this by saying console log greet Bob. And I will run this in my console. And we say hello Bob. So this violates the first constraint because without changing an input to greet, I can change the output. So if I change the greeting to hi, my output now changes, but again, I haven't changed anything about the input to this function. So what we can do to rectify this is simply make sure that our greeting, this string here, is also an input to our greeting function. So if I just go ahead and add greeting as the first argument, and then we can pass greeting to our greet function. Now when I run it again, we have the same result, but if I want to get a different result, and I change greeting, I am now technically changing an input to the function. Okay, so let's talk about the second constraint of having no side effects. So what we're going to do is make sure that when a user tries to sign up for our site, he or she has a valid username or password. And in this example, what it means to be valid is that each of those things is going to have to be greater than 5 characters long. So let's create a fake user with a username of Jimbo123 and a password of 123456. That's a more common password than we'd all like to admit. Now we create an isValid variable and set that equal to false because we want to be safe. And finally, our function is going to be called a validator. And we are going to send our user through this validator. And if user.username.length is greater than 5 and user.password.length is greater than 5, we will set isValid equal to true. And so while this might seem like an okay approach, let's just go ahead and validate our user. And then we'll console log isValid. What we find is that we do indeed correctly validate our user, but we are causing a side effect of this validator function. A dead giveaway is that if you can call a function without having to use its output, then you're probably causing a side effect. In this case, our side effect is that we're setting this isValid variable based on our result of this function. So we're affecting something outside of its scope. We are causing a side effect. I'm not necessarily saying that this is bad, and I'm not saying that it is avoidable in all situations. But if you want your function to be pure, what you should do is probably return true, and otherwise you can return false. And then what you can say is down here, you can say isValid equals the result of our validator, and get rid of this one up here. And we can run this again, and now we are not causing any side effects. All of this logic is nice and contained within our validator.